Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And I have recently been going through all of Kevin Smith's films, but this one was not directed by him, but it is still part of the View Askew universe, and that is why I'm doing a review for it currently. So this is the 2013 film Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie. Here is your trivia question for today. What pop culture character shows up after the credits to take Jay, Silent Bob, and Stan Lee on their next adventure? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, in this animated adventure, we have our main characters of Jay and Silent Bob. The boys make the decision that they must become superheroes. After a few comic book style attempts to become superheroes, they finally decide to just give up. That is at least until Silent Bob wins the lottery, and now they decide to go the Bruce Wayne route and buy their way into superherodom. So they create a super secret hideout and then don their costumes, becoming Blunt Man and Chronic. So our heroes will also have to contend with a super villain group that has been created called the League of Shitters. The group is comprised of people that blame Blunt Man and Chronic for becoming the villains they are. So, will our dynamic duo be able to save the streets of Red Bank, New Jersey, or will they just decide to stay home and get stoned? So, this movie was directed by Steve Stark, but it was written by Kevin Smith. Smith wrote this movie as a spin off from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and took some ideas from a concept they had for a live action Blunt Man and Chronic movie. Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie is technically the seventh film in the View Askew universe. This time around, the film was not only produced by View Askew, but also by Kevin Smith's other company, Smodcast, which was a spin off from his podcast called the Smodcast Podcast. Jay and Silent Bob, of course, were actually voiced by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. Including Kevin Smith himself, all the other members of the television series Comic Book Men also do voices in the film. Smith even voices a version of himself that kind of acts like a narrator. And just like they do in most of the View Askew films, both Brian Johnson and Walter Flanagan even show up in animated form. Brian O'Halloran briefly shows up to voice the character of Dante. Jeff Anderson does not show up, but the character of Randall does still make an appearance. Kevin Smith's wife, Jennifer Schallbach Smith, does make an appearance as the voice of Blunt Girl. Other Kevin Smith collaborators that appear in this film as voices are producer Scott Mosier, Brian Quinn from Impractical Jokers, and Ralph Garman. Other celebrities that lend their voice to this film are Eliza Dushku as Lipstick Lesbian, Kevin Conroy as the mayor of Red Bank, Tara Strong doing the voice of Cockknocker and Small Fry the Science Guy. The reason why she was Cockknocker is they couldn't get Mark Hamill back for this. There's also Neil Gaiman as Albert, Stan Lee as himself, and even John Lovitz as the mad scientist. MC Chris even wrote and performed a song for the film. Here are some nods to the View Askew universe that I noticed throughout the film. You, of course, have the Quick Stop Groceries and RST Video from Clerks, the Mooby's fast food restaurant, the Secret Stash comic book store. There's one gentleman who's carrying a bag for fashionable mail from Mallrats, the website moviepoopshoot.com from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and of course the Wile E. Coyote style blueprints that Jay and Bob make, like in the movie Mallrats. When Jay and Silent Bob are trying to become superheroes, there's a lot of references to comic book heroes' origins, including Green Lantern, Spider-Man, Daredevil and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Super Soldier Serum for Captain America, and even a bat for Batman. There's also references to comic book villains, like, for instance, Magnet Man, who is supposed to be Magneto, Senior Icy, who is the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Mr. Freeze, Dr. Bratwurst, who is Dr. Octopus, and then they also have Loki, who is not given a different name, and Bane, who is not given a different name. There's also the Army of Bobs, who I'm assuming is supposed to be an army of Ultron robots. The last two references I noticed are Batman related. You have the parade scene from the original Michael Keaton Batman, and then of course you have Bookham Asylum, which is supposed to be a parody of Arkham Asylum. So, when it comes to the film Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy Cartoon Movie, I do find this movie amusing, but I will say its peak level of entertainment is probably when you're high, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel a movie should also be good when you're not. So, I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. And now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What pop culture character shows up after the credits to take Jay, Silent Bob, and Stan Lee on their next adventure? So all of a sudden, a DeLorean appears, and of course, within it is Doc Brown from Back to the Future. They unfortunately did not get Christopher Lloyd to voice the character, but I feel that Ralph Garman did a good impression. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.